All right. Well, I've got 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. Um, what I'm going to do is pull up, let's pull this up. Today we are going to talk about the final communications project. This is the big one. This is what we've been training for, right? So I said at the beginning of the semester, over here, I said, hey, you know what? We are going to learn the principles and techniques of business communication. And then I gave a little video that talked about how we were going to do that. And then for the middle part of the semester, we've been practicing these techniques that we've been studying. And I had a little video about that, talking about how we were going to use the assertions video project to kind of practice these things. Well, now we're at the big one. Now we are actually going to use all these principles in a full-blown, real-world communications campaign. And the things that we're going to be talking about today are all throughout here. But what I've done is here on this announcement, I've gone ahead and I have listed out all the resources that we are going to use today to kind of explain this. By the end of this presentation, you will know everything you need to know to be successful in this campaign. So to start, let's look at what this campaign really is all about. So putting it all together, let's define what a communications campaign is, what you're going to be doing. A campaign uses media, messaging, and organized communication activities to educate, inform, influence a specific group of people for a specific duration of time. So let's break that down a little bit. Media is the channels that you've been learning. So we're talking email, posters, websites, so on and so forth. Messaging are the key messages. What do you want your audience to take away from your communications campaign? So when they're exposed to your campaign, what do you want them to think, feel, and do? We're going to talk about that. And then organized communication activities, events, things like presentations, seminars, training, live streams. This right now is part of a communications campaign that I am doing to help you get all set for this project. All right, so that's the definition. What kind of campaign can you do? Well, we're going to talk about two options, and we're going to go into depth with them. One is you can do a business campaign. This is a project that is, opportunity to develop a communications campaign that addresses a specific business need. Now, we also provide service learning opportunities. Here's the thing. I'm still going to make service learning an option for you, but given our coronavirus issues and given the need to kind of hunker down, practice social distancing and so forth, I'm not going to recommend that you go the service learning route. Instead, I'm going to recommend that you go the business route, and we will talk about what that means in this presentation. Now, in order to understand what a communications campaign is all about, the easiest way to do that is to show you a real example. And look at this. You've seen these, right? You've seen those. You've seen this Canvas announcement saying, hey, register for summer. You've seen emails saying register for summer. You've seen kind of borders and so forth. If you follow on Twitter, if you follow on Facebook, you've received all kinds of communications. Hey, hello. Yeah, okay, fantastic. Halalo is with us. I'm sorry, I got distracted there for a sec, but that's okay. Keep them coming. You've seen this campaign encouraging you to register for summer classes. Now, check this out. Check this out. This is a campaign using media, all those channels I showed you, messaging, hey, get done with your degree faster, and activities to educate, inform, and influence, tell you about the registration, how to register, why you should, specific groups of people, you, during a specific period of time, latter part of spring semester. So this is an actual real-world communications campaign internally. We do this all the time, folks. This is standard. This is not just an academic exercise. When I was the communications manager for Intel Corporation, we ran these bad boys all the time. And Slick is running it. And in fact, Slick is running it right now when it comes to the coronavirus. Hey, Madison, you are getting all kinds of emails and notices in Canvas and videos and instructional guides and so on and so forth from Salt Lake Community College, from the IT people, from the provost, from me. This is a real-world internal communications campaign geared toward helping you make the transition from, in-person lectures to remote learning. So that is what a campaign is, and this is what you're going to do. Okay, so we've got that. Now, the next thing we're going to look at here is examples of past campaigns and what you might consider yourself. So I'm going to click here, and this is going to pull up a PDF. And this PDF will talk you all through kind of options you have and give you some examples. So for example, we're going to go for the business. You could do a campaign in support of your current employer. It could be that your current employer needs some help with communications internally, in other words, to your employees. Maybe around the coronavirus, maybe around how to work remotely. Who knows? All kinds of things, right? The really nice thing about doing a campaign for your employer is they love to see you engaged in the work, even when you're not working. So here you're basically saying, hey, dear employer, I have this campaign I have to do for school. Can I do something to help you as part of my school project? They're like, yeah, looks great on a resume. It helps your networking, gives you visibility in the company, and it strengthens your professional kind of acumen with them. It's a great option. So some examples. I've had I've had students who have promoted rewards and recognition campaigns internally, developing recruiting campaigns, promoting company holidays, things like that. And if you so choose, you can click here. And, well, heck, I'll pull it up. And you'll see a picture of what some students did for Smiths. They actually put together a mentoring program. So just kind of gives you a little peek at what they did. Okay, so now that's doing it for your current employer. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry, I got lost. What about, a hypothetical campaign? Now, what I mean by that is you're doing a real campaign, but not for an actual person, but not one that would actually be used, but sort of a, for example, hypothetical campaign. Quick note, and this is important, you do not have to actually pull the trigger on your campaign to get full credit. You do not have to initiate the campaign. You have to get it all ready. You have to have all your ducks in a row. Hey, Percy. And you have to have everything in place such that if somebody wanted to pull the trigger on the campaign, they could, but you don't have to actually do that. So in the case of a hypothetical consulting firm, another approach for your team is to assume the role of a consulting firm and develop a vanilla off-the-shelf product that would then be hypothetically used by a client. So for example, you could develop instructional material on maintaining an ergonomic workplace. I actually had a team, I've had teams do all of these. Corporate training on how to survive Black Friday as a retailer, develop short training for new managers. So in this example right here, you can actually pull up the campaign that these students developed for new managers. So they had how to communicate and leadership, delegation, motivation, and they have PowerPoint, they have podcasts, all kinds of things. So that is a real example of what that team did. And then you could instead take on the role as a Salt Lake Community College instructor. Another approach for your team is to assume the role of an instructor and provide students with instructional material on something that matters to them. So you could do a campaign that helps students prepare for an interview, or how to shoot a video, or how to do well in an online class. All of these here are examples of campaigns that past student teams have done on some of these things. So for example, if we do how to make a killer video, here's a whole website that the team put together on how to shoot a video. The planning phase, the filming, editing and uploading, instructional guides, all that sort of stuff. All of that is part of a campaign. And whether you remember or seen it or not, I actually have this link included in the assignment for the video. Okay, so those are examples of what you can do and what other students have done. So now let's look at a campaign that you actually went through. To do that, you remember at the beginning of the semester, the Jumpstart Your Semester, extra credit campaign. Well, that was a full-blown communications campaign, hey Brevin, that I did to not only give you the opportunity to do that and so forth, but also so that I could show you a real-world example, one that not only you experienced as the target market, but now one that you can go in and look at and analyze from the other side. So you notice here, these are the 3-part assignments that you have to do over the next month. We have the strategic communications plan, and then the actual deliverables, and then a presentation that shows your campaign. I'm going to show you all these right now. And by the way, the presentation is what I'm doing right now. Okay, so here I have the actual plan that I put together in support of this campaign. Now, later on, you can come here and you can pull up the whole plan. Everything that I did in support of this campaign is here. So the audience analysis, the messaging goals, we'll talk about this, the key messages, the channels, everything I did in support of this campaign is included here. I'm over here. Okay. So you have that available for you to reference. Now let's talk about the actual deliverables, the channels that I created. Well, these look familiar to you, right? I mean, we have this banner that was up there forever. We had this announcement. I had emails and so on. I had the Canvas assignment itself. I had a boilerplate invitation. I had the submission tally sheet. I had emails, remind.com notices, and a video, all in support of this campaign. And then at the end of the semester, you will present your campaign in a video, just like I did right there. That's right, what I just did right there, showing the plan, showing the channels, why I chose the channels. I didn't do that part, but you would do that. And then filming it and posting it, that's your final presentation. That's what you will be delivering for this campaign. Okay, so that brings us over here to the plan, creating a campaign, okay? So let's look at what actually goes in to your comms plan, because you have to plan it out. Remember that PDF that I pulled up and scrolled through and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. Don't worry, it's a lot, but you have a whole team to help you put it together, and it's in sections. I'm going to walk you through the sections. Okay, here is the plan at a glance. These are all the elements that need to be included in your strategic communications plan. And so pretty straightforward. You can basically use this as an outline. Your purpose statement should really state what the point of the campaign is. Now, going back a slide, remember I said there, okay, purpose statement should include who, what, when, where, how, why. Well, let me show you what I mean by that. Think for a moment. As a matter of fact, here, I'll write it right here. Who, what, when, where, how, why. Okay, so remember who, what, when, where, how, why, right? So then I'm going to come back over to this, and I'm going to pull up my comms plan. Now, see if you can answer the who, what, when, where, how, why. Because here's my purpose and objective statement. The fourfold purpose of this strategic communications campaign is to encourage my students to, and there are some purposes. I'll say, engage with the course material in a new way, one more closely aligned with their current media consumption habits. Now, currently, my business 2,200 students are at best passively involved with the course material. They watch only a handful of the videos, skipping much of the material, and give the reading only a cursory glance for key points. As a result, they do not well understand the principles, develop the required skills, or reach the learning objectives set forth by the class. The intent of this campaign is to try and break my students out of this passive approach and get them more engaged with the material, which is what you are right now, engaged with the material. By the way, this campaign worked. You guys are on it. The campaign will be conducted during the first month of the semester. This will allow me to engage with students, so on and so forth. Okay, so now let me show you what I mean by the who, what, when, where, how, why. Sorry, I know. No, that's not the one I want. This is the one I want. All right. Who is the target audience? My 2,200 students. What am I communicating? Hey, go in and watch these videos and get extra credit. When am I communicating it? During the first month of class. Where am I communicating and how? Through all those channels that I showed you. Why am I doing it? I want to get them more involved in the material so that when it comes time to do the final campaign, they're ready to go and have all the learning they need. So you see those two paragraphs that I put together, and by the way, one paragraph is normally enough. Mine was over the top. But the paragraph you put together for your purpose statement should answer who, what, when, where, how, why. Okay? Let me make sure I have the comments up there. Okay. Wow, hey, how you doing? All right. Okay. So here's the who, what, when, where, how, why, a little bit more detail. Then you need to do an audience analysis. Now, remember, you practiced an audience analysis when you prepared your video. Now we're going all the way. I want solid demographics, I want solid psychographics, and I want solid context. Now, in the comms plan that I have linked, that I showed you and you can reference later, you will see the detailed demographics, psychographics, and context that I provided for my audience, you guys. Then you're going to include messaging goals. Messaging goals are, what do you want your audience to know or think? What do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to do? So, for example, when it came to the campaign, let's talk summer campaign. Register for summer classes. We want you to know that registration is open. We want you to know how to register. We want you to know that the semesters are shorter. This is information we want you to know. Just think, what do we want you to feel? We want you to feel like it would be a really good idea to take summer classes. We want you to feel like you would be moving ahead with your career, your academic career, much more quickly if you signed up. We want you to feel like, summer semester is kind of a party. It's shorter, everything's a little more laid back, the professors are more cool and laid back. We don't want to stress over it either. We want you to feel these things because ultimately what we want you to do is register and register early. Don't let the classes fill up. So you kind of see how it works. You don't act until you feel like it's the right thing to do. And you don't feel like it's the right thing to do until you have the information you need that guides you in that direction. Okay, so you'll want to explain what your messaging goals are. Once again, reference my campaign as an example. Then you want to list out your key messages. What do you want your audience to come away with no matter what? Because as the picture shows, you get all kinds of information. You people are busy, you're stressed, and you've got a lot going on. You're not going to memorize everything in a communications campaign. Okay, well, if you're not going to memorize everything, what are the key messages that you want them to know? Well, in the case of Register for Summer, it's, hey, you'll get through school faster, you'll enjoy it, register early. 3 key messages. In the case of my Jumpstart Your Campaign, it was, imagine how good it'll feel to pad the points early on. You're going to have to watch these videos anyway, and you'll start the semester out great. It'll feel great. Those were the key messages. So you'll want to list out what your key messages are. And then you will want to list out all your channels, the channels you're going to use, and why they are the appropriate channels. So, for example, when I did my Jumpstart Your Campaign, your semester campaign, I used Canvas, I used video, I used Remind.com, because these are the right channels for my particular audience, students in my class. You notice I did not buy billboard space. That's not an appropriate channel. And I didn't put anything on Facebook because you don't follow me on Facebook. You can totally follow me on Facebook. So you would want to list out, and you can again see my example to see what I'm talking about, what channels you're going to use and and why they're the appropriate channels. Now, a note on channels. You're required to do at least 3 channels. That's a requirement. However, I would love to see 5, 6, or 7. Now, hold on. Why would you do 5, 6, or 7 when you're only required to do 3? Well, here's the thing. Doing 3, I mean, You will be surprised how easy it is to do channels once you have your key messages and your think, feel, do all together. Once you have a consistent look and feel, and once you have the messages, it's easy to put them in all kinds of channels. Furthermore, I would like to see you experiment and play and take risks and throw things on the wall to see what works and what doesn't work. But if you're going to do just 3 channels, I expect them to be 3 really well chosen and designed and executed channels, because 3's not hard. So I expect them to be really top notch. But again, once you get those 3 done, it's nothing to create some more, because you're using the same words, the same graphics, the same look and feel. You're just putting them in other channels. So play with it. And then finally, you're going to have a tactical plan. You're going to talk about, who you're communicating with, what message you're going to communicate, what channel you're going to use to communicate that message, and when are you going to do that communication. So for example, and you'll see this in my sample Jumpstart Your Semester plan, I was communicating before the semester even started. I was just kind of getting the word out there. Then once the semester started, I pushed it harder. And then once I was getting to the end of the due date or close to the due date, I pushed hard saying, hey, it's almost, the due date, get in there, get it done. And then I did messaging afterwards to tell you what the results were. So that is what I would include in my tactical plan. Okay? Those are the aspects that go into the campaign. Now, the last thing I'd like to do is talk about some ideas I have. Now, you can do anything you want. You can do a campaign for your employer. You can do a campaign for an organization you like. You can do a campaign for a fictitious company. As a consultant. You could do, anything. But remember, one of the options I had was you could put yourself in the mindset of a Salt Lake Community College instructor, and you can develop materials that the instructor, me, would then use in future classes, which I've done many times. Here are some options. Now, quick note to the Nutshell Brainery team. You will need to choose one of these options. I will go over this with you in more depth later on, but just to give you a heads up, this is one you will have to choose one of these or something close to it. So here are some options. One is instructions and examples for assignments. So obviously I have lots of assignments in my class. And in some cases, I have the instructions. Some cases, I have examples. In some cases, I have a video that explains the assignment. What I would really like is for a team to choose any assignment in, 2200 and record a video that explains the assignment, gives an example of a good submission with an analysis of why it's a good submission, gives an example of a lousy submission with an example of, with an analysis of why it's a lousy example. If you're interested in doing this one, connect with me. I'll give you some ideas and I'll give you some resources. Okay, so if you choose any of these, I'm on tap to help you do these. Another option is a lecture packet for a communications topic. I have videos for a lot of my lectures. I have PowerPoint presentations for many. I have podcasts for some. And I have an article like a chapter, a textbook chapter. But what I want is all four for all the topics, right? I want to be able to deliver my content, this 2200 content, in all four of these channels to my students. And so I would like help in putting together, these channels for a given topic. So for example, if we're talking about how to do a PowerPoint presentation. I'd expect a video lecture on how to do it, a PowerPoint presentation talking about PowerPoint presentations, talk about getting meta, a podcast on how to do it, and then an article that kind of gives some step-by-step tips and tricks for a PowerPoint presentation. Now, a third option is instructions on how to use WebEx. So I'm not using WebEx right now. Obviously, I'm on YouTube, but I am using WebEx in some other classes. It just kind of depends on the nature of the class and how much interaction I want to get from students. Here's the point. A lot of students don't even realize that they have access to WebEx, let alone how to use it. It can get a little daunting. And so I would like an instructional video on how to use WebEx, a PowerPoint with step-by-step instructions and pictures on how to use it, and then a Word step-by-step guide. Now, included here is a a link, that's what it's called, a link to a video that Slick has already put together to teach people how to use WebEx. But I feel like it could be better. I feel like it could be more targeted towards students. This one is targeted to both faculty and students, so it gets a little confusing. So this is another option that you have. Okay? So with all of that, guys, that is everything you need to know for this final campaign. You have like 5 weeks to do it, a little less than 5 weeks. You will need every day of those 5 weeks to do this. So do not wait. Reach out to your teams. Start moving forward on this. Don't wait, especially since we're all virtual now. This is especially challenging since we no longer meet physically, and you folks that have always been online, it's really challenging. Just by way of a quick heads up, I'm going to take you to a video. I apologize. Here, let me come back over here. Remember, here at Nutshell Brainery, I have a playlist on workplace collaboration. And one of these is how to build an effective virtual team. Everybody now is a virtual team. Online folks, you've been a virtual team from the very beginning, but now the lecture students, you are now a virtual team. So I invite you to watch that, rewatch that to kind of understand how you want to come together and help make that happen. But with everything going on and everything we have to do, we really don't have any time to waste. So I really invite you to get with your teams right away, decide what you want to do as a topic, start moving forward, and use me as a resource. I'm not gone. I'm here. Use me. Okay? So that's everything I wanted to go over. I'm going to stick around to see if there are any questions that come up in the chat. Otherwise, we are all set. Here, let me pull this up. No, that's not the one I wanted to pull up. We are all set and you're good to go. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and I'll get right on them. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys choose to do. We'll see you later. Okay, Percy, we had 3 people who said hi, but you only answered 1. Yeah, I know. You know, the thing is, Percy, it's funny because this is like my third live stream only, so I'm getting used to this whole thing, and I'm learning how to set everything up. Really well done webinars. Actually have 2 people, sometimes 3. They'll have the person who's actually doing the webinar. They'll have a second person who's, frantically looking at, and I guess I should move this over there so that it looks proper. who's looking at the comments and responding to them. And then sometimes they'll have a third person who's dealing with IT issues and so on. So yeah, when I'm a one person show, it's not always perfect. Okay. Yes, Brevin, you're doing this with the same team. This would be a really, really bad time for me to reform teams because then you'd have to go through forming, storming, norming all over again. And that's like Dante's ninth circle of hell. So, no, we're with the same teams. Hopefully, you're getting into norming because we need to be normed to make this work well. All right, what other questions do we have? I hope the sound has been good. I invested a lot of money in this really nice microphone. Of course, I'll be using it for my podcasts and for my videos and so forth. The camera is still just off the shelf, whatever. But I invested a lot of money in the sound this time around so that it can be better for you guys. Hopefully that comes through well in the live stream, but live stream is kind of a voodoo technology for me thus far.